All right. So, hi, it's me, Bromer, again from Mahaz Academia for working for SafeAc. I'm here at Fan Expo, Vancouver. I have the immense pleasure of getting an interview here with Brian Drummond. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Glad to be here.
So, tell us first of all, who is Brian Drummond?
Who is Brian Drummond? Brian Drummond is a collection of crazy that pours out through a voice that creates all kinds of fun for 30 years. That's what Brian Drummond is. And a family guy that loves Vancouver, loves Canada, and loves just being a part of the animation world.
So, first of all, I have to say something. I have to admit something. My sister is a huge Sonic fan.
Okay.
So, tell us, how did you end up getting that role?
Well, it's pretty wild. Sonic has been pretty interesting. My very first role is Knuckles in Sonic Underground with Jaleel White, who played Steve Urkel in Family Matters. Jaleel played Sonic, and I played Knuckles, and that was 1999, I think, when that came out. 25 years later, I was cast as Eggman. Eggman in Sonic Prime. Very different than Knuckles way back in the day in Sonic Underground. But that I was thrilled. I didn't really know the Sonic world when I was cast as Knuckles because it was quite new as far as animation. But when I did Eggman over the past couple of years, that was a whole different thing because I was very aware of the Sonic fandom then and loved playing the role of Eggman in Sonic Prime.
Yeah, so Sonic is this franchise, this massive legacy.
Yeah.
It's been going on for so long. How did you end up getting that role of Knuckles in Sonic Underground, which is, let's be honest, a cult show?
Yeah.
Definitely. So how did you end up getting that role?
Well, as a performer, you're sent some sides by your agent, and I just auditioned for it. Usually, there's a character description. No one's going to really say it's the voice of an echidna. Like, what is he going to sound like? I don't know. But they have character descriptions. He's cocky and arrogant, a bit full of himself. He's kind of a tough guy. But back in that day, unlike now, like with the voice of Idris Elba playing Sonic, he's more of a big tough guy. But in that series, everyone had higher pitched voices. And he was still a tough guy, but he had a higher voice than he does now. Now he's kind of a booming tough guy. But back then, they just wanted him to sound like he was not ready to take any garbage from anyone. No one was going to get that chaos crystal from him.
In your career as a voice actor, how did you sort of get into this profession?
I started in theater school. It's all about acting, as far as I'm concerned. It's voice acting. And when I got out of theater school in Vancouver, Studio 58, one of the best theater schools in the country, I started working in theater, and then I started doing a little bit in film and television and radio. And all of a sudden, when you're a performer, you want to use your tool belt and do anything you can. My agent gave me an audition for a G.I. Joe series, and I booked a lead in it, and I loved it. The director was Sue Blue, who had done all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I learned so much on that first show. I told my agent, I want to do more of this. This is so fun. And he introduced me to more. The next thing I booked was Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z.
There's something I'm going to ask you. How did you land this role?
Oh, Zechs Merquise in Gundam WIng.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Legendary show.
Legendary. My first Gundam series. And I was working on that one the same time I was doing Dragon Ball Z. It was great because Zechs has a really cool, calm, collected voice. But the same process, you just get a character description from your agent, you show up at the audition, and you do your best idea of what you think that character should sound like. And if the producers agree that your version of the audition was the best of what came in the room, you might be lucky enough to book the role. And I think my instincts just happened to be right with some of those characters.
By the time that Gunam came out, it was already a established franchise.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much in the West, but definitely in Japan.
Yeah.
And so how was it to come in and play a character like that on such a legendary franchise?
Well, because it wasn't as well known in the West, I was not as aware of the Gundam world. Like Transformers to me were the robots that I sort of grew up with, and I was very aware of Transformers. But Gundams were new to me. I didn't really know that world and the pilots and how such a big deal that was. I certainly became very aware of it as I worked on more series. I played Andrew Waldfeld in Gundam Seed. I was in Gundam 00. I did a lot of Gundam work. But Zechs Merquise and Gundam WIng was my first. And as you do more, you certainly get enveloped in the series and begin to learn more all about the world. And I love it. It's great.
Now, a bit of a selfish request for me, Black Lagoon, one of
Ah,
my favorite shows.
yeah, yeah.
And I swear I'm not brown nosing, but it's one of the few shows where I by far prefer the dub.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, how did you get into get your role in Black Lagoon, and what was your experience playing in that show? Yeah.
It's a great experience too. It's very similar to most of the others because with dubbing work, the experiences are fairly similar on most shows because you work by yourself, right? We're on our own in the studio. It's not like some memories I have on shows when you're in a group in a room with all the other actors. It's still just me working. So it's a bit of a solitary world doing dubbing. But Benny was fun because I'm usually playing the villains or the bad guys, the tough guys, the heavies. I've got a bit of a deeper voice. But at that time, I wanted to try just something a little bit more laid back. And he's kind of the cool techie driver guy. And I thought, I could probably do Benny. I think I read for some other roles, but they sort of liked the vibe that I brought to him. And I had a blast on it. It's such a wild, raucous, crazy, aggressive, violent, cool show, but a cool story too. So it's fun to be part of.
Yeah, seeing some of the contrast between characters that you've played, it just like you have a pretty insane voice range. The banner in front of your booth here,
Yeah,
the OG voice of Vegeta.
yeah,
The question I want to ask to you is something that I've talked with Veronica Taylor about,
yeah,
who played Ash for the first few seasons of Pokemon
yeah,
until it was Pokemon USA about the show, and then Sarah Narducci took over
yeah.
since then. And I asked her how did she feel about sort of someone else taking over her role, and she said, "Well, it is a bit strange that you watch a show and like you see the character you played and someone else's voice comes out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she said, we understood the cast. We didn't have a choice. It was moving over. There's going to be a new cast. We knew that.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with Chris Sabat, and how do you and how what is your relationship with the character of Vegeta?
Vegeta, I have a love-hate relationship with Vegeta because he's my first anime role. He's one of the greatest characters I've ever played, but I've lost my voice more times on that show than anything else because it is a killer show to do just because of the power-ups, the screaming, the fighting. It's brutal to work on. But Chris is a great guy. I love Chris. Chris brought me back in Dragon Ball Super to play copy Vegeta. But when the show moved, I didn't really have a ton of feeling about it because I was on so many shows at that same time. I was like, oh, I guess it's moving. But then what happened was only the American version of it moved. Then it came back and we continued recording and we did all of Dragon Ball Z that was seen in Canada on YTV back then days. So, and in Europe, London, England, Ireland. So there were parts of the world that just saw me as Vegeta for all of Dragon Ball Z. The US were the only ones that saw it change. But Super was different. I'm not a part of Super except for that small role of copy Vegeta, which was really fun. And Chris invited me to do that. So that was a great thing. I love Chris. We have a great relationship.
Yeah, like you were part of the main cast of Super, but I always ask all the voice actors who played in the OG Dragon Ball back in the 90s.
Yeah.
What was your feeling when you heard that Dragon Ball is coming back for Dragon Ball Super?
Because I wasn't part of Super at the time, like I wasn't the voice of it. I didn't have big feelings about it, but I was excited just to see the franchise continue to be popular, as I am when Dragon Ball Z Daima came out, and I saw the new casting, and I know that more of Super is being done. When I see the new movies come out, I'm always excited to know that such a cool character and a cool franchise is continuing to exist because it allows me to still talk about the origins of it, which are with me right here in Vancouver, where the first voice of North American voice of Vegeta was created, and that's right here.
Out of all the characters that you've played throughout the years, you've done a really big range of variety of characters. You've even played in kids shows.
Yeah.
What was your favorite character to play?
I'll be honest. I was never more excited than when I was cast as Wolverine. I got to play Wolverine in 5 movies, and he was my favorite X-Men in the comics as a kid. So to grow up, to be in I think I was in 30s, maybe even my early 40s, to play a role that I just dreamt of as a child is like epic. I was on cloud 9. I was just squealing with excitement when the phone call came from my agent and said, "Guess what, Brian? You booked Wolverine." I was like, yes. If You know, if my hands could have had, adamantium shoot out of them at that moment, that's when it would have happened.
It's been like your dream role.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, dream role. I was just I could have quit right then after doing Wolverine and go, I'm done. I've reached the pinnacle. I played Vegeta and Knuckles and Ryuk and Wolverine. I'm finished.
Yeah, let's talk about actually Ryuk. That's the one role I sort of was floating over because I want to leave the best for last. Like you're here as the voice of Ryuk here at Fan Expo with the rest of the cast of the main cast of Death Note. Ryuk is a bit of a different character, type of character from the usual type you're used to playing. How was it like playing the role of Ryuk? How did you get that role, and how was it? What was your experience in terms of practicing and playing for that role?
It's a very different role, and it's a funny thing that most people don't know is I was never asked to audition for Ryuk. My agent sent me what the producers wanted me to read for. I read for Light's father and a couple of other detectives. I showed up at the audition, and when I showed up at the audition, I saw the pictures of the characters I was going to audition for, but I also saw a picture of Ryuk, and I was like, "What? Why am I not auditioning for this cool-looking demon? Who is this guy? He looks like the best character in the show." And I went straight to the director when I was in the audition room. I read the other roles, and I said, "Can I please read for that demon-looking bad guy as well?" And he said, "Okay, we don't have a lot of time. Here's some dialogue. Go take a look at it for 5 minutes and come back in and give me your idea." And he told me two things. He's not the bad guy, and he has a kind of an interesting laugh. I'm like, okay. So I just wanted to add some texture to his voice and give him a laugh that sounded a bit like a cough. So he was give him a little bit of that. I added some texture, and I never booked any of the other roles, but I booked Ryuk. So it was just a wonderful thing that happened. And he's such a different character because he's not the protagonist. He's not the antagonist. He's the character that just watches it all unfold. He wanted to drop the Death Note because he was bored.
Yeah, like he sort of planes. He's like an existence above everyone else.
Yeah,
It's another plane.
Yeah.
Existence.
He just wanted to create a little chaos, see what happens. He's not on one side or the other, and he knew a lot of what was going to unfold before it did. But it still was a joy for him to watch.
My favorite line of Ryuk's is actually the final line that he reads when he's writing Lifestream in the Death Note.
I told you in the very beginning that I would be the one writing your name in the Death Note when you die.
And the reason I remember that line the most is because it really reminded me of sort of those monologues in theater.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
You know, the entire scene where one character talks.
Yeah, they stop, and it's almost like holding the skull and saying to be or not to be. He's got the Death Note in his hand, and he just speaks it aloud. It's cool. It's great. It's a very theatrical show in that way, and Ryuk is one of my favorite roles ever. And to originate that voice and be the only voice for him in the anime in North America is pretty fun.
It's I would say not just it's not uncommon, but it's even like usual to find voice actors who come from the world of theater. Yeah. To this day, how much do you think theater is sort of ritual of like a passage to get into voice acting?
It's a big part of it. I would almost say 80% of the people I know in voiceover have a theater background of some kind, if not more. And probably because we were trained to use our whole body, and there's a lot of voice work that takes place. You got to learn a lot, and if you learn to train your voice and you have control over it, you're not afraid to be silly with it and create all kinds of characters with it and do all that work. You're just not afraid to do it. And so theater actors are ready to jump in and play with things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about the general direction of voice acting right now? As you know, there's a lot of people from the old guard like Charles Martinet who are retiring slowly but surely. You're someone who has had a very long career. And as well, now there's AI. That's another issue. How do you feel about the direction of voice acting in general?
Well, as a theater person, I'm a fan of IRL. I like in real life. I like real people. I like real emotions. So I love real theater. I like seeing face-to-face a real human, like not AI interview. I could probably do one, and they probably ask me good questions about my career that they'd pull from the internet, but we don't get this. We don't get this with real people. So I hope as this world changes in this industry, and I think it will still be something that we will crave as humans, is that real life interaction. We are going to fulfill a lot of needs with AI. Some of them are going to affect a lot of industries, and performance might be one of them. But I still think whether it's live theater, live music, live comedy, that we're going to want to see live people, and I hope that just stays part of our lives.
I think the interaction bit is such a real thing, because I think what makes people watch interviews, people can go and read your Wikipedia page
Yeah,
and find all the
yeah,
information, but it's the rapport,
Yeah.
it's the dynamic,
Yeah.
it's the sort of the relationship that's built throughout the interview. That's
Yeah.
what people like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd get, if an AI did the interview for me, I'd get a lot of similar questions and I would answer them a certain way, but there wouldn't be the rapport. There wouldn't be sort of the bits in between. And I say something that makes you think of a different question or because of a direction it goes, which just makes it more alive. And I hope we still try to strive to participate in the things that, make us feel more alive. And I think that's the in real life interactions like these ones, right?
If there was a certain, you mentioned Wolverine earlier, but like if there was a certain role in the future that you could play, which character would you want to play?
A certain role. Oh, I'd love to go back to Wolverine. He would be a blast. He's pretty rough on the voice though too. Like
You want to continue to play like
Yeah.
other roles of Wolverine in like animation?
Yeah, I'd be thrilled if I was ever called in to do other stuff in animation or video games. That would be a blast as well. To do if Ryuk came back and they wanted to do more Death Note, and took place in like the Shinigami realm. We learned more about how he existed or a backstory. That would be thrilling. Some characters I played in the past would be fun, but anything new, I'm always excited to sort of find out what my voice can do and come up with new stuff all the time. So when a new thing comes in front of me and I have to create a voice for a brand new character, that's pretty thrilling too.
What do you attribute the longevity of your career?
I think being very flexible. Sometimes people get trapped in sort of one quality, and if you only do one voice, and it's sort of, maybe if it's a hero voice, you can't be the hero on 10 different shows. Like you'd be like, oh no, the voice of Naruto can't also be the voice of Goku, can't also be the voice. Like you've got to have different qualities and different sounds. So I made sure I moved around from comic to character to deep to villain, to do monsters, to do high voices, to do comedy characters, to do video games, to do really deep, like wherever I could go with my voice, I found a way to move it around so that it was almost unrecognizable in other things, which would allow me to be on more shows. So it's not like, Brian's already on this. He's really recognizable. I don't want him to be the lead in this as well. But I could be side characters all around a lot of shows and still keep working.
Yeah, I like the modesty. There are some actors who shall not be named who have this ego, and I think you some ego to be in this field, but to the point where they're like, I'm not going to do this role. It's too small for me. I'm too big.
No, never. And sometimes some of the smallest little parts just become cult favorites, right? They just, they lead, and they lead to other things. Because I want to be in a room with a director that will go, oh man, those 2 episodes of whatever you did were hilarious. They will remember that, and they want to bring you back for something else. They're on another project and be like, oh yeah, Brian did that guy. Remember he's in like 1 episode of this 2-season thing we did, but he was really funny. Why don't we bring him in for this lead or this secondary lead or on this new thing? And it helps build your career. So we've always said this, there are no small parts, only small actors, right?
We're both here at Fan Expo Vancouver. I'm here for work, but also, I get to enjoy conversations like this.
Yeah.
What do you like about conventions?
Meeting the fans, hearing the stories. As a voice performer, you're in a bit of a fishbowl, like you don't know, you're away from the outside world. This is an opportunity where we talk to people about what these shows meant to them and what they mean to the fandom, and that's half of what's exciting about going around the world and talking to what it means in every different place, and it's something different everywhere.
Well, thank you very much, Brian Drummond, for this interview. It was a great conversation.
Absolutely.
You're a very easy person to talk to, and you're very passionate about your craft.
Absolutely.
I love
nice
that.
to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, take care.